So no one should be alarmed, even if they hear that automated voice. So I want to thank everybody for coming. It is 7:39 and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you for coming to the December meeting of City Island Rising. For those of you who don't know, my name is John Doyle. I'm the president of the board. We all appreciate you guys coming and making time with us to build community. And as we all know, this is not an easy time of year for you to make the time, which means we're even more deeply appreciative for those of you who found it. There's a lot going on City Island. A lot of things that are still unfinished, but a lot of things that are going on. And we have a lot of people who are even on this call who do a lot of great work. So we want to get right down to it. I see our panelist or our guest speaker rather is not yet on. So I am texting him as we go along here to see where he may be. And then we will, but we will keep going. There are other things we can talk about for right now, which are deeply important to the neighborhood. And we want to make sure that you are here, that you are informed, and that we are doing everything we can to build community with you and also to improve the community and make sure that we're all working together towards some shared goals. I guess what I'd like to do tonight is, we'll wait till obviously our speaker joins us, but this is also a good time to get down to updates on things that are going on in the community. And as I said earlier, there is an awful lot going on. So this is a good time to start addressing that. And before I start, I just do want to acknowledge we have both Kimberly Woodruff, who is our treasurer. She is on the call right now, as well as, there she's waving. So Kim, do you have anything you want to say before I jump into this or no?
No.
Okay. She's always hard at work behind the scenes. I'm not trying to put her on the spot. She's working on lots of things, but again, we improv here a little bit. And Louisa Benedetto, who's also on our board, is also on this call, and we appreciate her as well. I will not put her on the spot, but we do appreciate her and everyone else being here. Beverly Jones, who is our secretary, who works very hard for the organization. She had a conflict, so she won't be able to be here tonight, but she sends everybody her well wishes and regards. And with that, I'm going to go right into the community updates. In past meetings, we have given updates as to Rodman's Neck, and particularly some of the what I like to call the slow walking of Rodman's Neck. and one of those slow walkings has been, unfortunately, as it relates to getting environmental reports. And what you should know is that there was a segment in media recently on New York One specifically, which dealt with kind of some of the slow walking, particularly of the ground well samples that they keep there, the water samples that we think are very important, and the air monitoring samples. And as many of you will recall, back in 2018, the Department of Corrections actually had to shut down for a few days because the lead concentrations were so high. So we had been after this. We had been after this through the precinct council, which, full disclosure, I also sit on. But we had been after this for some time to find out just how bad the environmental dangers really are there. Obviously, we had been joined by a lot of our colleagues, both in the different environmental groups on the island, whether they be the Hutchinson River Restoration Project or some of the volunteers on the Oyster Project. And this had been going on. They had slow walked us for, believe it or not, over a year. Well, I'm pleased to inform you that within 48 hours of that New York One piece being put online, we got back 7,100 pages of environmental reports. So as you can imagine, that's a lot of material to go through. Full disclosure, my education major was political science, which I will share on this call, even though it's being recorded. It's not really much of a science. So what I am doing is we have enlisted a few scientific experts to be helpful with this particular kind of undertaking, and as well as an environmental attorney who's well known on City Island. So we are going through those documents. If anybody has a specialty in this and would like to be a part of that, you are absolutely welcome to. Just please email me or email the group at cityislandrising@gmail.com. I see Patrick just got on, so he is our guest, so we will transfer over to him in a few minutes. The second thing that both the board and I, and specifically Kim and I, have been working very hard on is trying to bring UPK back to City Island. And obviously this is a concern for many young families on City Island. And just so you know, I have family members who are very, very in tune with this project. So I literally get constant reminders asking me what's going on here. So I wanted you all to know that through our working with Assemblymember Benedetto, we reached out to the Chancellor's office and pressed on them the need for UPK in our remote community. An RFP was issued that just closed to try to get another UPK in City Island. UPK means Universal Pre-K. Thank you, Roy. I shouldn't use acronyms because not everybody would know this stuff. And it's kind of specialized. So for our Universal Pre-K, there a request for proposals was issued, which is basically that the vendors submit something to fill a need. And I know for a fact, one vendor who has a very reputable city reputation in our general Bronx community did submit a proposal that had a concentration for City Island to try to do a 3 PK, which is the young regular, which is geared more towards 4-year-olds. So nothing is set in stone, nothing is done. But what you should know is that we are working very hard to try to get this done. And we are working very hard to kind of fill the void and the need as we have it here. And just, kind of try to build this out to where it needs to go. And Patrick, we're going to get right to you in just 2 minutes. So just stand clear and be straight because we're going to get right to you.
I just had a walk to clip a coffee there.
There you go. I'm glad to hear that.
That was quite a good walk.
and now you're caffeinated and you'll be ready to go in a minute.
No, they're closed. They're closed.
There we go. Okay. The next thing that we have up here is actually was.
Well, I think the answer is we don't know. We simply haven't had the time to study Gen X to say conclusively what the health outcomes are.
Consensus on online petition people can sign, and have we have the paper petitions, and you can go to both Clipper Coffee and sign it there. You can also go to, I believe one's up. If it's not up already, it will be up in the diner. So 2 different places on City Island you can go if you feel like we do, that we should be a part of the discussion, part of the proposal, and advocate for a ferry. I know some people feel it should also be at Orchard Beach, and there's nothing stopping us from advocating for both. So, and actually there are good cases that one could build on another, that if people are at Orchard Beach and the City Island Ferry is running, that particularly during summer hours, people could go off at Orchard Beach and then they could come back to use the ferry to travel to City Island and really reduce a lot of the traffic we have here, because it is a very nice trip. Finally, and I posted this on our social media pages, but I'm going to say it here. We've had some positive, as many people will recall, we a few months ago had a meeting in kind of the late point of summer. David Diaz, who's also on the board, myself, Senator Alessandra Biaggi, her staff, Transportation Alternatives, and there was 1 or 2 other people, about different things we could do to make improvements within Pelham Bay Park for motorists, pedestrians, bicyclists, and the deer that live there. And we're starting to see a lot of those little things checked off the list. You've probably seen more wrong way signs. There's supposed to be even more wrong one-way signs because the cars, we all know, late at night are not going in the right direction in many kinds, and it leads to accidents. The U-turn, the no U-turn sign by Hutch Exit 5 has been reinstalled. So now when people go there, there's at least a sign warning them they're not supposed to be making U-turns there. And we are waiting. There's supposed to be some other modifications to Exit 5 that we've been informed are coming. They have made changes. They're going to redo markings for both bicyclists and the roadway at the different entry and exit points of the park, which is obviously over the Shore Road Bridge, the Pelham Bay Bridge, and the Hutchinson River Bridge. Obviously, the other day, as everyone's seen, they did the plastic delineators over by right when you're going to the Pelham Bay Bridge, which was welcome. They're also supposed to be doing a divider or some sort of bollard or some sort of protection, because as people know, when you make that turn on the City Island Road, the pedestrian walkway meets the roadway. And there should be something there protecting the pedestrians, the cyclists, and just a reminder to cars to slow down, because even though the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, we all know they're going a little bit faster than that. So we are working on that. There are more probably announcements on that in the future, and I'm going to actually, once Patrick takes over, I'm going to put some of the, I wrote something, it's a portion of it appears in the Current, and something also, a longer version appeared on the Bronx Times. So I'll put that in the chat along with News 12 covered it the other night. So we are seeing some improvements there. We're expecting to see even more improvements. The city released a plan for general streetscapes there. And in that plan, it listed that City Island already had a protected bike lane. So I screenshotted it and reminded the interim commissioner that that's actually not done. And they might want to get back to putting some sort of protected walkway or bike lane there that could serve everybody. It would probably be welcomed by almost everyone in the island. So he is looking into that. Moving on here, we have Beverly Jones, who, as I said earlier, cannot be with us tonight, but sends her best wishes. She is helping plan a memorial for Elizabeth Mass. This is the construction worker who was unfortunately murdered over by the park a little earlier this year. That is in the planning stages. I will tell you that we have already, we have a GoFundMe page, which I'll also put into the chat if people feel generous. We started the GoFundMe page and we raised over $2,000, and it connected us with her daughter, who Elizabeth's daughter. She has 3 children, and we are in touch with her daughter. So that's been really wonderful in the sense of this tragedy, because now any steps we're taking are in coordination with the family. And we had to do a plaque for the bench where Elizabeth ate her lunch every day. And we actually, we directed that her daughter had full reign over that and decided what the plaque's going to say, and ran it by her siblings. And, it was really touched that everyone in the community has taken such an interest in the life of her mother, which is really, despite this being a tragedy, it's her life every day, and the kindness she lived it with is what we should be celebrating. So, and that's what we're gearing to do. But Beverly is going to be handling our memorial for Elizabeth. I think it's probably going to be in the colder months, because this is almost ready to go. We're also having some conversations with the tree planting department. We're going to actually have a tree donated within the park, which requires some pre-clearances. So if you'd like to make a donation towards the tree, it's going to be up there in the GoFundMe, but the plaque is already paid for. We're just doing a little bit more for the tree. And then we're probably going to do them as separate things, both the plaque being the general memorial we're going to do, and then hopefully try to line the tree up and Roy, I see that, and we'll definitely give you the time, and probably put the tree in there to, that'll probably, hopefully, if we can time it right, fall on the anniversary. So that way there's something there that's positive to commemorate her life. Finally, and I know Steve Dershowitz was on the call, he may be back on the call. We're trying to start an Adopt a Block program where everyone can kind of adopt their block, and we'll do it in a coordinated fashion. This would be for cleaning up the street litter, as Stephen has spoken about at our June or July meeting, but I think it was the June meeting. But it's also going to be not just cleaning up some of the trash and the litter, and us and Rising, City on Rising, providing you with the supplies. One thing we're going to ask that a specific focus of is our catch basins, because as people here know, there's a lot of pondage, a lot of large puddles, a lot of unfortunate levels of flooding in certain areas, and particularly around certain basins. And those are the little grates in the street, so people know what I'm talking about. There has been, because they're not maintained, it has kind of aggravated the existing flooding we have going on, which is a real concern for us. And so if you've seen me out there late at night sweeping the basin by City Island Avenue and Schofield Street, I have not yet lost my mind. despite rumors to the contrary. I am actually cleaning the basin, and I've done it more than once, but we need, and I know other people have been doing it for longer, probably better than I do. We need to do that on every block. So this is going to be a social media coordinated effort, particularly starting with the new year where people are looking for good resolutions. So we'd like to get a group together. And again, we will provide the materials under the condition that you sign some sort of written pledge, just saying that you understand that you've been gifted the materials and you will clean your block once a month, something like that. Is Stephen on? He was on. I saw him on earlier. Is he still on? Oh, he is on. Stephen, do you want to add anything to what I just said? Okay, I see he's on with the phone, so if he needs to chime in, we'll give that in a little bit. But I know, and we're going to do questions on all this stuff in a few minutes, or maybe a little longer than that. But before that, just because we do have our guest speaker and he's taken the time to put together quite a thoughtful presentation, I want to give him the time to do that. And that's Dr. Patrick Gannon, resident of Miniford Street, who is going to speak to us tonight extensively about the Hutchinson River pollution. So Patrick, please chime in, take it away. Hold on, I'm gonna try to unmute you if I've muted.
Oh, there
we
you
got
go.
you.
Am I loud enough?
Yes.
You know, I'm a soft speaker. So how can I share my screen? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, you are. Give me 1 second. I've got to make you a co-host, but I can do that. So.
All right. Because I just wanted to show everybody the agenda so you can.
Yeah, no worries. You should be able to share your screen now, sir.
I should, okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty useless at this game, but maybe I'll change my thoughts after I make it work.
Maybe it's Zoom, but very good with overall environmental advocacy. So.
Did that work? Can you see my screen?
No. Is this the Drive link you sent me?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm going to put that into the chat so everyone can see what we are doing.
I just want to show the agenda so that I don't have to read it off endlessly. And then people can ask questions about it.
I understand that. I respect that, sir. And we are going to get it. Just give me 2 seconds. We're going to get it up here for you because it's very detail oriented. And I think it would actually be best if people saw it as is. So hold on.
All right, so but first let me get started because essentially the reason I'm doing this is because Nancy and I and one of her colleagues from the Bronx Borough Predators, we took the kayak ride up the river for the Hutchinson River Restoration Project back in September. And let me tell you, that entire trip, we were in shock. Things were so bad. There were dead fish all over the place. There was human fecal matter floating around. There was toilet paper. And all the, many other animals were just there, dead on the riverside. It was a disgusting experience. And we went there to do the usual, which is to pick up all the waste of plastic bottles and all that garbage that people throw away. And normally that would be just fine. We'd fill a dozen, big black plastic bags. But this year it was just, we came away there in total shock for that feeling that the Hutch River was like an open sewer. And sure, it happened right after that storm that came by, and sure that the storm drains and the sewage streams are just merging in Mount Vernon, but that's not an excuse. This cannot continue. And we are the recipients of all this stuff. Think about it. Eastchester Bay is us, and that's the end point of all that effluent that they send down to us from Mount Vernon and all the industry along that part of the river. So that's just to tell you why I started thinking, what can we do about this, And other people have done it too. Nancy and her group, the Bronx Borough President, met with Senator Biaggi last year before COVID really started taking over their interests or their needs. And so they did a lot of work as well. They actually met with the mayor, the new mayor of Mount Vernon. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, John, are we on the agenda yet or no? I can just wing it. It's okay.
It is a moment in time, but I will get it up there. It's just saved.
No, it's all right. It's all right. All right. So that was the background. And the Hutchinson River Restoration Project have been going on for a long time. Their focus rightfully is on Thomas Pell Sanctuary. That's like a fish fry breeding ground where all those little fish become big people and swim out into the ocean. So it's a very important area, and there's a lot of sanctuary stuff there for fish and birds and other wildlife. And they're all dependent on the cleanliness of the Hutchinson River. So that's my foundational story. So now, what is happening? Well, Mount Vernon is happening. They've got a huge problem with their sewage system. It's broken. It flows out into the storm drain system. A storm comes by and they all mix together and it just dumps everything into the Hutch up on Mount Vernon. It's terrible. And they had a public awareness thing happened in 2014, and somebody reported it. They witnessed it. Their storm drains, sewage drains going into the river at that level. And so the Save the Sound came by. A lady called Talia Steiger came and she did a whole monitoring of the bacteria. She's the coordinator for Save the Sound. And we have a relationship with that organization as well through the Oyster Project. And so she found bacterial slime, it's called a biofilm, on all the pipes and the riverbanks all the way. And it's what that is. It's just bacteria that have just set up shop permanently. And it's like, shows you, that's a great evidence for like what is a fecal calciform bacteria living there in the river, on the riverbanks, everywhere. And they send it down to us on our side of the woods as well. So that was a major indicator of raw sewage overflow from Mount Vernon. And remember, this is 7 years ago. And really not much has changed since then. And clearly it wasn't a new thing either. It had been happening for a long time. So they were given plenty of warnings. Save the Sound. It's not a legal enterprise, but they gave them, please fix it up. You got to fix it. And so they reported them into the public forum and nothing happened for 7 years. So let's move forward now to a few years ago. That's when the U.S. Attorney's Office kicked in, the Southern District of New York. So September 22nd, 2020, the Department of Justice sent out a court order requiring the city of Mount Vernon, that was a Freudian slip there, to address polluting storm waters. And I'm going to read what it says right now. So, following defiance of 2 EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, administrative orders, the city of Mount Vernon is now subject to a permanent injunction to remedy discharges of raw sewage and other illicit pollutants from its storm sewer system into the Hutchinson and Bronx River. The Bronx River is on the west side of Westchester, of Mount Vernon, sorry. So the thing is, nothing had been done, and it just keeps going on and on. So, I've talked to people, a lot of people who know this stuff a lot better than I do, a lot of the people who are members of that partnership, and they're all saying, we've been trying for so long to get something done, and we don't think it's just money. The mayor of Mount Vernon, she's made so many promises that have never come true, and that's Sean Patterson Howard. And some people say she'd like to do it, but it's such a huge problem, and it's not just a money problem. Now, what that means is, I have no idea. But all we know is that no matter what the EPA does, no matter what the legal system of New York State does, it's not taken care of. So,
Patrick,
now,
I let you know, the link is in the chat now. So if people want to follow along, because your presentation, I commend you for it. It's very detail oriented. So if they want to follow along, there is the link in the drive now. People can follow along. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
Can you
what's
share
the link?
So it's beautiful.
What?
Can you share access to the document?
Jesus Christ. Yes, I can share that. Absolutely. No problem.
Yeah. It's just an agenda. But anyway, it's good actually to have it because it's all listed there, all of the points that I'm talking about. And so now what really struck me, let's go back to what Nancy and I we were shocked, like I said, on the Hutchinson River trip that we took on our kayak, and we couldn't believe what we were seeing. So all of those things, that history with Mount Vernon, they are doing so much damage to us. They're sending all their you-know-what for us to take care of. And they were the ones who should be taking care of it on the front end. So now we were thinking, what could we do about this? So what came out in the feds recently was a bipartisan infrastructure bill, right? Everybody's heard about it on the news. And one of the components of that is the investment in environmental remediation. Wow, that sounds it's made for our problem, doesn't it? And so what we're going to have to figure out, we have to build relationships with the Mount Vernon mayor, Showin Patterson Howard, and the new Bronx Borough president, Vanessa Gibson, and the New York Senate, Alexandra Biaggi. I've already interacted with her, and she said it sounds like a great idea to go through that bipartisan infrastructure bill from the government. And Kirsten Gillibrand, she said that she would work out with her and to see what they could come up with. Now, John, you may have something to add to this because I heard you were partying with them last night.
Yeah, I went to a Christmas tree lighting in Morris Park, and the senator was there. And I'd gotten your email, and as you mentioned earlier in your presentation, she's hosted some meetings with the mayor of Mount Vernon, and I know Barbara Zom has been a part of those meetings, and I think Aji has also been a part of those meetings. They're both on the call. And just so you know, part of the reason Mount Vernon has not funded it has been the mayor, Patterson Howard. She recently got to become mayor. She hadn't been mayor for a very long time, and the Mount Vernon she kind of inherited is in such poor financial state, they have no ability to bond. So what does that mean? And you kind of to translate it to folks is that New York City has come a long way since the 70s. When we have a high infrastructure project, costs a lot of money, we're able to bond that. We send out bonds, we're able to borrow money, banks take it in, there's financing. Mount Vernon's been run so poorly for decades, right up to now, that she's not been able to bond. And there's in Mount Vernon, their comptroller and their mayor are at odds. You've probably seen some of the stories, like the cop cars don't have gas in them. There's been a string of financial improprieties. A lot of people have called on the mayor to resign. The state comptroller, who's Tom DiNapoli, actually put something out saying that the comptroller of Mount Vernon was somewhat negligent in their duties and needed some level of independent oversight. As a result of what Patrick's talking about, which he's absolutely right, a lot of this means that because of this mismanagement at several different layers of Mount Vernon government, this issue hasn't been getting dealt with. So as Patrick mentioned, the bipartisan infrastructure deal and what's possibly moving through Washington right now provides us a real opportunity to do this. And he rightfully pointed out the bipartisan infrastructure bill as part of that. So the senator had gotten his email. She agreed with him, and she reached out to Kirsten Gillibrand's state director, who is setting up some sort of a meeting, which I'm sure people here will be involved with, to try to get this going and make sure this is included in that project. I also know the congressman to the north of us, not our congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but Jamal Bowman. He represents the North Bronx, Co-op City, Wakefield, Woodlawn, and Riverdale. He also represents Mount Vernon, and he did give a little bit of money already to address these pipes, but as Patrick has said, it's going to take a long period of time. So Patrick, we were waiting on the Mother Nature Bond Act, which is now supposed to be on the ballot and next year, which is supposed to be $4-point-something billion towards exactly projects like this. They've delayed it twice, but as Patrick's also pointed out, we keep getting delays and nothing tangible is being done. So hopefully through his advocacy, through the bipartisan infrastructure bill, through Senator Biaggi, through State Senator Biaggi, through U.S. Senator Gillibrand, something will get done.
Just to add to that, so let me just say that what I've been hearing as well from the people who know this stuff is that money isn't necessarily going to fix it. You're going to have to deal with a lot of people because there's miles and miles of sewage pipes that go through people's yards into roads. So apparently the engineers have already made an assessment, and it's a huge project, not just financially, but construction-wise. It's massive. And you're thinking, is that why they're avoiding it? They don't want to upset too many people. Well, too bad. You're sending us your bad stuff. We want you to fix it. So we have to come together. And that's kind of why the last part of this discussion is we have to build a partnership with the affected communities. And let me just read down the list that I put together with good advice from our ex-borough president. And he said, you have to do this. This is the only way you're going to do it. So we're starting out with the Hutchinson River Restoration Project, Save the Sound, City Island Rising, of course, City Island Oyster Reef, and then communities of the Hutchinson and Bronx Rivers. That gives you Mount Vernon, Pelham Manor, Bronx District in general, the industries that come along the Hutch, like 2 asphalt plants and an oil issue, and many other things locally. and then the New York City Department of Parks, Bronx Solid Waste Advisory Board, the Environmental Protection Agency, and so on. That's just the beginnings of thinking of what the people that we would need to put together to make a convincing argument to the government to get money out of them. And one last thing I'll say to you is, as I was researching this, I just happened to look at the Bronx River, see what they were doing, the West Side Story, so to speak, of the same kind of water source. And they have an incredible alliance, literally called the Bronx River Alliance. And they're doing a massive amount of work. It's a much bigger system than the Hutch, of course, but they have a huge number of partners and financial support going on with them. So we may have to go down that road again. And if we want to write a proposal and get money, we have to have goals and specific aims, which I'm good at. I've written a lot of grants to the NIH and NSF, so you count me in for the
Well,
grant
we're
writing.
going to need you to volunteer your services for that for sure.
That's, yeah.
And I see Barbara. Barbara, I see you have a question. So you get first question when Patrick's done.
First of all, I want to thank Patrick for bringing it to this meeting. I am on the board of the Hutchinson River Restoration Project, as is Aji, and she is also on this call. And we've been, of course, trying to figure out what to do. I was the one who actually pulled that meeting together with the mayor a year ago. And John, thanks for the update. I thought that they had put in a proposal for some infrastructure money a year ago or something. Maybe it just never went through, or because they couldn't get a bond, like you described, it all fell through. So, all of what I really want to thank Patrick for bringing this up, because I know that the Hutchinson River Restoration Project, we've been wringing our hands and we have to reorganize ourselves actually, and so that we can tackle something as important as this. And I want to make some kind of suggestion that those of us that care from any of these organizations that you just mentioned, that we call a meeting, to specifically deal with this. I don't know if it should be a face-to-face meeting on, at the Clipper soon, like within a couple weeks, or I don't know, the holiday season's on us. But I totally agree. And we should inject, get this going again, and not again, but getting it going so that it actually happens.
Yeah. Barbara, I just, nothing was, and you were 100% right. And you did, and you are, both did and are, so not just you were, but you still are doing a lot of work on this and having those meetings with Senator Biaggi. And then we had this follow-up meeting, you remember, where Senator Bailey was on the call amongst other people. And I think the city of Mount Vernon was depending on a lot of aid, as Patrick was saying, and COVID got a lot of that tied up. I think that's where we left off with this. But I as someone who spoke to the senator, who was also very supportive, and I know you've been working with too.
But I suggest a strategy meeting, and not just with the senator or with the mayor. In other words, it's got to be grassroots. I've learned this through the Oyster Project. We have to make something happen.
You're right. You're right. And that's what I'm trying to say here is that the senator got Patrick's email, read it, and reached out to me because she thought it had a lot of merit to really try this federal track. I guess that what Patrick went into, that's really where we want to kind of steer this to go right now. Because as what we've all said here, a lot of us were waiting, and yourself included, all of us, we're waiting on the Mother Nature Bond Act because it specifically had money for this, remember? Exactly. And then it got delayed from the ballot in 2020, and now it's going on in 2022. So the thought is, until that happens, and we still need to do more with that, but until that happens, to try to do something via the infrastructure bill.
Yeah, but I agree with you. The infrastructure bill would be perfect. The question is, who manages it? How do we, there's a strategy meeting. So that we need to pull together. We need to think through. Maybe it is Save the Sound. I don't know. I mean, we need to sit down and talk about these things, because there's a lot of people have a lot of different information. We can invite Save the Sound to that meeting.
Sure.
Of course, we would invite everyone that wants to come from this, that's on this meeting. I just propose that we have a strategy meeting as soon as possible to discuss.
Absolutely.
We can, you and me and Patrick and Aji, I know Audrey's on this call, can sit down and come up with a date. Hi, Audrey.
Hi.
You know, come up with a date where we actually sit down and have a strategy meeting about this. And it doesn't have to be from the Hutchinson River Restoration Project. You know, we have to build it bigger, better, build back better, or whatever.
Yeah.
How
Good.
appropriate, what an appropriate thing to say. No, you're 100% right. I think that's why we wanted to have Patrick here, because just Patrick had, done some grassroots activism on his own and done some research and looked into the federal program, at what had passed in the infrastructure bill. And the senator communicated to me, and I apologize. This all happened, as Patrick said, this happened at a Christmas tree thing last night. But she had communicated with me that this was something very worthy of us to all pursue together. That's all.
Audrey, I just want to hear to see if Audrey has anything to add.
Right, just quickly something to say. There have been funds appropriated to clean up. One is that, well, starting with background, Save the Sound. Really, there's a strip that goes from essentially the Westchester County line to City Island that Save the Sound really isn't involved in, but might like to be. So we really have to encourage them seriously. The other thing is that money was appropriated by APA in 2012. And it was a huge in millions that they were going to take care of the overflow from the CSO that I believe is on 212th Street in Co-op City. This is one of the things that we should insist they reevaluate. And it's almost, 10 years now. This is millions that they were going to build a huge bubble, store all the S-word stuff in that huge bubble, treat it with chlorine, and then dump it into the water. And they're still going to do it. It's still in planning. If you think it's good to dump half raw sewage with chlorine into water where people's fish, forget about it. It's not going to work. That's taking one step at a time. That's one of the things that we should prevent from happening. I can think of others, but that's the first I can think of.
So we can take it offline when we should have a meeting, but I would really like.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yes, absolutely. You're 100% right. Patrick's right. No one. This was just meant to introduce everybody to new developments, not to. That's why you brought it up in a meeting like this. That's public. It's going to be online later. So when people are watching it, if people do want to get involved, they can reach out to any of the groups, and we're going to have a further planning meeting on this. But just that we're going to pursue stuff with federal infrastructure.
Because I also feel it's so important. I'm willing to call a meeting right now. Like I'm looking at my calendar a week from Friday. I mean,
I will always be there.
Do we have to, does it have to be evening? Can it be during the day, John?
I will take time. Don't worry. We will find the time. We will make it work. We'll schedule it offline, but we will find the time next week to do this, all of us together.
I suggest a week from Friday, the 17th, before we get into the. What?
I will second what you just said.
Okay.
No problem.
Well, this is kind of what I was saying to Senator Biaggi too. The days are going by and the money may dry up. So we have to really make sure that we have our hand in the cookie box. It's going to be there.
No, totally.
Now we have two senators behind it.
Just before this call, I was listening to a town hall with Schumer and with and what's his name, the New York
Brad Lander.
Yeah. But it hasn't come through yet. I mean, you can't get your hands into the cookie jar yet, but now's the time to plan. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just, after Senator Biaggi got Patrick's email, she already reached out to like the head people at Gildebrand's office, at her statewide office. So we're not starting at step one here. We're thankfully a little bit ahead because of the work you've been doing and Aji and everyone else. Where
there's so many letters. Yeah, we've loaded their offices with letters, particularly about the Hutch. Other things,
but in the Senator, we have an advocate. You're 100% right, but in the Senator, we have an advocate where she got, she knows all the work you've done and everyone else, and when she got Patrick's thing, she just jumped on it. So that's the good news side of this, right? All the work everyone's done, we're moving quickly.
There's good news because I think there's enough of us that are upset. And we're gonna, and I know when myself when I get upset and feel something.
I wouldn't mess with you.
Yeah, right.
There we go.
Nobody wants to.
No, there we go. That's a universally shared thing. Patrick, did anyone else? First off, thank you, Patrick, for your presentation.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful. And I know Nancy, through her work, Nancy Keck, Patrick's wife, Human Health and Human Service Director for the Bronx Borough President, professional in her own right. She actually, I believe there is a report the Borough President's Office has completed on the Hutchinson River. And I know there may be some announcement in the works on that, just to steer, because a lot of us have been waiting on the report and then the state partners to push on the Mother Nature Bond Act. But Patrick is right, there's this federal avenue as well. Does anyone have any questions for Patrick?
I have a question of you. The Mother Nature Bond Act, did it completely go away? Did it just disappear?
No, they delayed. It didn't go away. So in 2020, it was passed in the budget, which is why we're having all those meetings. But the governor had power within the budget with his emergency powers to delay it. So he delayed it to 2021. And then new governor came in, Governor Kathy Hochul. She came in and I believe she delayed it, but in the process of delaying it, she also changed it from $3 billion to $4.5 billion. So she added more money.
So that's money we can ask for now. We can actually begin to apply for.
Yeah. I think we want to get the reports together. We want to, and this is why the meeting that we're talking about will be great, because we'll get all our ducks in a row. We'll start with all this stuff. Obviously, we have Senator Biaggi, State Senator Biaggi, we have State Senator Bailey, we have Assemblymember Benedetto. They've all committed to do everything in their respective roles to advance this. They know it's important to City Island. This is one of those great issues, because no matter what your religious, political, what have you leanings are, nobody wants to bathe in the fecal matter that Patrick has so aptly described here. So we are moving in the right direction here.
Okay, a week from Friday.
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, if people do have, first off, Patrick, thank you. That was a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Everybody, it is shared in this chat. And also if you go to our agenda, which has also been shared, I put in all the other links that we have been talking about here tonight. So the agenda is chock full of links that can be very helpful to you. With that, we're gonna move on here. Let me just see here, because I want to see if our other guest has joined us. Sometimes she gets on the Facebook page, but I don't think we're not streaming onto Facebook. So ironically, it was Biaggi's aide. So we'll deal with that later. With this all in mind, I just wanted to check. Obviously, we spoke about Rodman's Neck, UPK, the ferry petition, the parks improvements, Elizabeth Mass Memorial, and Adopt a Block before Patrick came on. Did anyone have any questions on that stuff? Comments, concerns? Okay, so I want to give some time to Roy, because Roy requested time, and I always want to be considerate of people when they ask for time in these meetings for another initiative he's involved in. And then Ariadna, would you want to jump on after that to give everybody an update on how they can support the Anchor Fridge and all the good work you guys are doing?
Sure thing. Thanks, John.
Yes, sorry. So we'll do Roy first and then Ariadna second.
Okay, I just want to quickly mention, people may be aware that a couple of days ago, there was a fire in a house over at Fordham Street. That house, which I understand is going to be totally torn down at this point, belonged to David and Harlan Sexton, friends of mine. They're long-time residents of City Island. So there is a GoFundMe that has been set up. Nobody was hurt. They have a place to stay, but undoubtedly there is a enormous amount of disruption to their life. So I'm pasting into the chat here the link to a GoFundMe to help them get back on their feet. And there's also going to be, I'll paste in another little thing. This Sunday at Grace Church, there's another reception and fundraiser. What is it, 11 o'clock to 1 p.m. over at Grace Church. So everybody just, please dig into your pockets.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, Roy. And also the Legion, the American Legion Post, Joanne Valletta emailed me. The American Legion Post is also a part of this effort and will be supporting the Sextons, as I know I believe Harlan is a member of the service, or was a member of the service. She's a veteran. So they are going to be out there supporting the Sextons. But thank you, Roy, for that. That's super, super important. And we want to make sure, I know a lot of people have reached out to the Sextons. Harlan recently emailed me about it. So it's nice to be part of a community where after something tragic happens, people are overwhelmed with neighbors showing concern and care and love for them. So please, Roy, if you can send me the GoFundMe link, I'll e-blast it out to the 500 people on our membership list.
Yeah, I pasted it into the chat. Can you just grab it from there?
Awesome. Yep, I'll take it from there.
Okay.
I'll make a donation too, as I'm
Okay.
sure everyone here. Okay, thank you, Roy. Ariadna, why don't you take it away?
Sure, I'll be brief, John. Hi, all. Ariadna here from South Bronx Mutual Aid. We also help operate the Anchor Fridge on City Island. Just checking in, we're always in need of drivers to help with food pickup. So, we're very fortunate that we have a number of food sources that are willing to donate to us. One of our biggest challenges is having people to help move the food for us. So we have restaurants and other food sources from Uptown Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, and different parts of the Bronx that are willing to donate to us, and sometimes in large quantities of meals or produce or prepared items. But what we lack is having enough drivers to be able to pick them up for us. So we do have some driver needs that I just want to share. Right now, a need for us is on Tuesday afternoons, potentially Thursday afternoons. And we do have some opportunities that take a little more driving, but those would be on Friday evenings or Saturday daytimes. And so I hate saying no to food because we know food turns over in the fridge really quickly. It moves really, really quickly, and we want to keep restocking it as frequently as possible. And so right now that's really dependent upon having enough people power. And so you don't need to have any special skills other than a driver's license and a willingness to put some boxes in your trunk. And then I can always help coordinate to give access if there's more overage than what can fit in the fridge. We do have refrigerated back storage so that we can continue to restock the fridge from whatever anyone picks up. So I'll drop some information in the chat for anyone that would like to be in touch. Is my cell phone number. Feel free if you or anybody else is interested in helping drive and pick up some food for your neighbors. It's always appreciated.
And I'm doing this just because we're being recorded, so it's a self-accountability measure. I know I've said I would drive before, specifically on a weekend, so it doesn't conflict with my work schedule. Saturday or Sunday, I'm at your disposal. So let me know, and I'll definitely volunteer one day to go and hopefully do it on a more regular, every other week basis to pick up.
Much appreciated, John. Thank you.
I do want to say about Ariadna that she is, she operates kind of out of a lot of the area where, everyone knows I live right near the Anchor Fridge, and they are always out there stocking that fridge. And the other day, and I shared this with her before we got on the call, or before we started the meeting, the other day they restocked it and it was to the brim. I mean, there wasn't a spare room on the shelves. Everything was gone within 2 days, which shows they're doing their part and that we've all got to step up a little bit and do more. So if you could also share with me and you could send this to me on the side, because I want to put this in the email as well that we're going to send out, the link to your how we can fund you guys, because you guys are doing great work. And if anyone has the opportunity, pick up some stuff. What are the easiest things that, like, if someone, I'm going to ask a question, I'm going to use a prerogative here. If somebody wanted to stop by Dominic's tomorrow, let's say someone's watching this right now or hears about it, if somebody wants to drop by Dominic's tomorrow, what are the things you most need that they could throw in the fridge?
Now, thanks so much for asking, John. So milk is immensely popular, and we have a lot of elders that really do depend on the fridge and what gets stocked in the fridge in terms of perishables. So whether it's the type of milk that can keep, for example, in the Tetra Paks that are a little smaller, or just a regular gallon of milk, milk is definitely always appreciated. And just the traditional staples that you would think, most folks need. So sliced bread, cheeses, let's see, I would say eggs. I mean, these are things that, most folks can use. And then up in the freezer, most proteins, or even in the fridge, deli meats. So any type of deli meats in the fridge, as long as it's prepackaged. In the freezer, just about every type of protein is popular. Chicken is something most folks eat on the island. So I'd say any of those things tend to be staple food items that everybody can utilize.
Great. Thank you for that. So we will definitely, please send me, a little bit of info, and we'll put it in the
Of course.
email to send out.
And folks, by the way, are always welcome. If anybody stops at Dominic's and just wants to drop something in the fridge, you don't need my permission. You don't need anybody else's permission. Anything that's being picked up over at Dominic's, dropped directly into the fridge, or, meat items in the freezer, that is always appreciated, right? Your neighbors will surely be very grateful to see any of those things stocked in the fridge.
Thank you for that, and thank you for what you're doing. Does anyone have any questions for Ariadna before we move on? Appreciate you. Thank you for what the good work you're doing year round. Under old business, does anyone else have any new business before we move on to old business? I forgot to ask that first. Okay. Under old business, and I threw this on there just because it's important that there be accountability and people following through on things we talked about at the last meetings. So as people will recall, at the last community meeting, we had a long discussion. We had with Dior St. Hilaire. She is the president of the Bronx Solid Waste Advisory Board, which I also serve on, but she has been recently empowered and appointed by the borough president to come up with plans for our solid waste needs. She also runs a composting company. And since the last meeting, David Diaz and myself have been in touch with her, because obviously we didn't get the composting revived here just yet. We're working on some larger scale plans on that, but we've been in touch with her, and we're having a meeting with her to set up a food scrap drop-off site on City Island. So that way people, again, it's not like leaving it on your curb, but if you do have the composting, you can dispose. We're going to find a set location on City Island. We have a plan for it, where you're going to dispose of it, and every week Dior or someone on her staff is going to come out and pick it up. So not quite composting in terms of from your curbside, but composting all the same. And then that will go towards that kind of a purpose. So we are trying to make good things happen in these ways to serve the community and fill gaps that we all know do exist. Beyond that, we covered old business, new business. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say here at 8:32 at night that, we have the time, and we have a small group here, which is nice, so we can actually have that discussion. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add or advertise, or some sort of community need?
Was anybody resistance to the decisions that were made about the bus stops that were recently instituted?
So there was a meeting.
I know I didn't go to that.
Yeah.
I should have done.
No, it's fine. There was a meeting with the MTA. There were only two people who spoke at that meeting from City Island in the virtual meeting, and that was myself and Kathy Seebeck from the neighborhood. She asked that all the bus stops be preserved. I've spoken to a few people at the MTA. Again, we've been trying to get 24/7 bus service for some time now. What I was told informally was that if there was the community consensus behind preserving a stop or two, we'll probably get it. But if again, all the bus stops are getting stops cut. This is to be to allow less bunching and to allow the service. Remember now that it's going to be a purely City Island bus in terms of the route. it's got to do the whole loop in 30 minutes. So reducing those stops does make it easier. And I know people are saying, well, they could just bypass the stops, but one, we don't want that all the time, because then that leads to the bus not running exactly on schedule, which does piss a lot of people off. And then two, keep in mind, yeah, it's fine for 9 months of the year when it's easy to do that. But what about the 3 months of the year when we have summer traffic that, like, you know, again, as the bus has to pull into a stop, then to get back out into the roadway, that can cause a lot of problems. That can lead to, you know, delays, extensive delays, because you got to pull in and then be able to pull out. And as we all know, sometimes the traffic jams we have here on summer weekends, you sometimes take your life into your own hands if you move out too quickly. So it is something we all have to be, and I mean that resident, visitor, whomever, somebody's great Aunt Millie behind the wheels of a Ford SUV can be a, you know, what is it, a deadly weapon. So we need to be mindful of that as well, and hopefully that will lead to the route being a little bit more condensed. I asked on this meeting that they consider keeping the stop at Cross Street, because it's right there, it's on a light, so eliminating it isn't really going to do anything anyway. And it's right near the Jack's Bait and Tackle at the beginning of the island, and right near the Legion Post. I know the other scheduled stops are Schofield Street and Pell Place. I live right near the one at Schofield Street, as everyone knows. And despite rumors to the contrary, I did not ask for the bus to be removed. I like hearing the bus. For some reason, it brings comfort to me. I used to get on the bus here at Schofield Street, and sometimes still do. Pell Place, I don't see the bus being utilized as much, I'll be honest, from a resident perspective, as somebody who drives the island or walks the island frequently. But I do hope that they I do hope that they keep at least one of the stops. I personally think Cross Street makes the most sense, but whatever they choose, we you know, and I understand the stops are a concern, but in a greater context, getting 24/7 bus service in a dedicated city island route is a very, very good thing that sometimes I feel, and not with you, Patrick, but in general gets lost in this discussion, that it took 7 years, we talked about earlier, it takes 7 years to do things. It took 7 years to get this bus and a year-long delay because of COVID. So we're moving forward with that. But yes, if you have comments though, you can still submit those comments to the MTA. You can still do it. And I know a number of city islanders have done it.
Good.
Does anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns about the neighborhood that they'd like to see either addressed or something we've spoken about at a past meeting?
That's my one question. Does anybody know what's the construction that's happening on the bridge on Post Road? Because there's nothing going on, and yeah, it's down to one lane on one side, causes problems. On the other bridge, the retractable bridge.
Post Road. I think they were, I will double check on it. I think they were doing prep work for the, because they're actually, that bridge is about to get reconstructed as well.
Right, that's what I figured.
Yeah, so there was some prep work. They did put out a notice about it. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. They were doing, I assume it was some prep work for the upcoming bridge, but yeah, they were doing some replacements and some milling of the roadways. And you know, I think that's what that was about. But eventually that is going to be a much more common thing. And actually, as we were talking about earlier with some of the park improvements, when they put some sort of barrier between the pedestrian bicyclist area and the roadway, that's actually going to be, they folded that in to be part of the overall bridge construction. They actually sent me an email to that effect. So, you know, there are some good things happening with this as well. And we'll see where that goes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? Forever hold your pieces. Festivus is around the corner, I believe. If somebody's got some sort of, you know, wrestling with the poles and whatnot, if somebody's got something they want to add, let us know. And also we are, from a board perspective, we are looking to get a few more board members. So if you're interested, please reach out to me privately. And, you know, things are moving along on all the other community fronts. We will have more updates and hopefully some big ones between now and the next meeting in what will likely be January. So I want to wish you all, if you celebrated Hanukkah, a happy Hanukkah, because I know it's past. If you're celebrating Christmas, a Merry Christmas. If you're celebrating Kwanzaa, celebrating, if you're not celebrating anything at all, I wish you a happy holiday and time for, peaceful self-reflection. And I will see you all in 2022. The fight continues.
And let's not
Good night.
forget the Happy New Year is probably the most important one, right?
Oh, and a happy new year. Yes, absolutely. Good to see you all. Bye-bye.